Hello again, this is Billy Hahn once more here for a cube draft. Just going to hop in the queue now. Last draft, if you happen to catch it, I ended up going 3-0 with the green deck, which I was not thinking was going to be a 3-0 deck, but things worked out a little bit better than I had thought. Let's see what we have here today. Alright. Make this a little bigger. Alright. So, kind of a bunch of turds here. I like Karn Liberated. Sword of Fire and Ice is okay. Not a card I would ever pick first. Rattle Claw's an okay. Green Creature, Muldrifter's fine. Replaceable. Repeal's good. I don't like first picking a Repeal. Most of the rest of these cards I don't really like at all. I don't ever like playing White Control. Martial Coup is technically a good card in that archetype. Doomblade's fine. You could make an artifact. Yeah, you could make an argument for a land. I'm gonna take Karn Liberated. It's pretty good in most decks. Let's see, what do we have here? Ooh, Exhume is a card I like a lot. I do really like Reanimator Strategies. Does not really pair well with Karn Liberated. Usually you have to throw away a lot of resources when you're looking to Exhume. Not necessarily, but you know, Faithless Looting type of effects leave you down a card, less likely to take your 7th land drop. So that makes me like this a little bit less, but still it's very, very powerful, and these are usually the cards you get pinched on. You can always get the fatties, you can usually get the discard cards, but the actual reanimation spells are the ones that are the lightest in this cube. Speaking of reanimators, Miscalc is a really good counterspell. Counter magic is really good in general. I said Delver I don't think happens very often. I said that last time. Anguish Making is medium. Explore's fine. Lands would be justifiable. I'm gonna take Exhume. Power level reasons. Like I said, I don't love that pick, and I might just leave it behind depending on what we end up seeing. Binor Elves is good. If you're green specifically. Brainstorm is somewhere between medium and unbelievable, depending on how your deck sets up. If we knew for sure we were going to be exhuming, Brainstorm is exactly the kind of card I want to make good in my deck. Just the 1-mana cantrips are basically the cards that make all the blue decks work. All of them are incredible, just so that you can actually find the cards that matter and make things happen. I'm tempted to take this Brainstorm, kind of because like Binor Elves is good in green specifically, but it would immediately put us on the path to draft that deck again, which is not necessarily the worst. Yeah, I'm gonna draft it. That was a tough pick for me. Maybe it wasn't for those of you at home. Ooh. Most of the fatties are pretty replaceable. Cold Promised End is nice because it's actually castable. So it's very tempting. And so is Flooded Strand. Basically, you need a couple fetch lands to make your Brainstorms actually function. Because, I mean, if you just use it without actually having fetch lands, usually it's pretty poor. Like I said, cantrip effects are not replaceable, and the cheap ones are the best by a mile. Late in the game, this is basically a Demonic Tutor, and we already have a card we really want to find. And theoretically, we might be able to play this card too if things break the right way. I like Emrakul a lot, but I'm willing to pass it here for this value of card selection. And yeah, once again, so I guess that Brainstorm pick, we ended up getting really paid off just by lining up the cantrips. Basically, because we have these cantrips, from here we can draft about any sort of deck. We don't have to be married to this Exhume. But it is a potential payoff. Serum Visions is another fine card, worse than these two, but definitely solid. Among these other cards, I like Wake, but It's not a card I value very highly. Rector is a card I've had cast against me a lot, and nobody's ever made it die on their own, which I think is kind of one of the ways you need to utilize that card if it's going to be in your deck. I've never gotten red aggro to work in this cube just because I think the cards are getting taken too highly. It's neither here nor there. Ooh, JCB. I like Jace a lot. Dreadshade is a card that I really like drafting mono black. In the past, when they had multiple black devotion cards, like even the 7 mana flyer that made a bunch of 1/1 bats, I really liked drafting mono black, but they cut some of the devotion cards, and you know, mono black is kind of a derpy deck. I haven't been drafting it for a while. But Dreadshade, I have a special place of loathing in my heart because that's what knocked me out of my Grand Prix top 8. So whenever I see this card, I kind of grumble a little bit to myself. Dreadshade aside, Jace Beleren is very good. So is Garruk, but I don't think we're going to be going that direction. Don't need to pick up a removal like this. I'm just going to keep taking good blue cards while they're passed to us. And we might just be doing it. I said something about this in the last video, but Tempest Djinn and company, you know, the mono blue cards are very good, and for whatever reason, getting drafted not very highly in my opinion. This card is a single card strategy. If you can get some cheap counter magic to protect it, you'll usually kill your opponent in 4 turns, and that is a pretty good clock in my opinion. So I'm going to slam Tempest Djinn. I'm not passing much here, you know, Farseek and some medium nonsense. Plus, then you get to play all islands, and that's dope. Whew. If you learn one thing from me, it's that cards like Force Spike are really good and undervalued. Hopefully, I get the chance to actually record some games in this video. Force Spike plus Tempest Djinn are nice in combination. So, Ephemeral also good, but we are slamming Force Spike. Alright, these cards are all turds. I'm thinking Crater's Claws is the most likely card for me to play. I'd like having an X spell and just in my sideboard, or, you know, having outs to random threats, or just doing a little extra damage can be nice. I don't think I'm going to end up being green, so pretty safely sideboard that. Delver. I might take this Kiln Fiend. I mean, it could be blue-red, technically. I might not get enough blue cards to be straight mono-blue, although Tempest Djinn obviously wants me to be. But again, like, I have 4 spells right now, and I still don't think I'm going to have enough. When push comes to shove, and Kiln Fiend is you know, it's a reasonable threat. That was a nice wheel. This card's not, honestly, it's just not very good, but if you are laying some beatdowns and casting some counter magic, it threatens planeswalkers. It, you know, it starts to put a clock on, which mono blue is not the best at the early clock. And Old Man of the Sea is okay. Probably not going to make the main deck. It's kind of a medium card. I'm not going to take a red card in this spot. I want the ability to kind of go nuts if I have to. Goblin Guide. I don't think I'm going to start this unless, I mean, if I end up blue-red, I might play it. There's a chance. Both these cards are awful. Whatever. Oh, took Xenagos. CD Brass 15th. What's the matter with people? You can't just let multicolor lands go all the way last. No. Do not let this card go 15th. Your bad mana base is going to be bad. Just take it over some nonsense card. Like, take it over the Dreadshade or whatever. I mean, obviously Dreadshade was in a different pack, but, you know, hopefully you know what I mean. Alright. Oh, I can do this. Oh, shoot. I told Zako I was going to line these up in order, and I totally forgot to do that. Sorry. That's not happening. Alright. Fact or Fiction is really good. Phyrexian Obliterator makes me think of Kyle Dietrich. This card is really powerful. One of the reasons to play mono black is that you always get Phyrexian Obliterator whenever it's opened. This card is, I mean, it is very good if you are all swamps. It's a little bit of a caveat there. But anyway, Fact or Fiction is dope. I'm taking it. It's nice to have some big instant card drawers that also line up with your counter magic. So, you know, when you have 4 mana up on turn 4, you know, it's not just cancel or counterspell or something like that. Occasionally you punish them with the other thing if they don't cast into your open mana. This pack is going to be pretty straightforward. Tamiyo is very good. A lot of decks are bad against Tamiyo because they're all in on a single threat, and so you can just kind of go nuts with Tamiyo. Duplicate I like a lot, and it goes really late for no reason. I never play Lightning Greaves in basically any deck that could theoretically play it, so I keep seeing it in queues and wondering why. Inferno Titan's gas, though. Thirst, Venser. I like both of those a lot. Sundering Titan's okay. I also really like Ancient Tomb. I'm really light on counter magic, so I'm gonna take Venser. But Ancient Tomb, I would slam dunk right now. Just being able to like turbo out something like Fact or Fiction or Tamiyo. To get that mana boost is just really powerful when you're not under a ton of life total pressure. And honestly, most of the decks in this cube aren't putting 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop on you. That's like mono white and mono red only. That's the kind of pressure that makes Ancient Tomb a liability, and there's just not a lot of decks that are going to punch you in that way. So I value it pretty highly. These Planeswalkers are fine. I think this one's actually very good. But we want to make sure that we have enough actual counter magic that we can get into the middle of the game and not just lose to random threats. Because, like I said before, we're going to be a little light on true closing power outside of, you know, our Tempest Djinn starts. So having more cards like Counterspell, like Venser, just to kind of keep the opponent off balance, not be able to do the thing they set out to do, you know, resolve their one good spell. Most of these cube decks are one good spell hands. The average hands play out like that, so just having a singular counterspell makes games a lot easier. Splinter Twin, it's cute. Some gifts. I really would love to make a dope cube deck that got gifts to be a good card when cast for 4 or for 2. This is one of my favorite Magic cards. Ooh, Boat. Screaming Tar Pit also would be very good, theoretically. I mean, we have one sideboard black card, and we are showing no signs of not taking a blue card, but Skyboat actually is really, really good, especially in mono blue. It gives you not only a big flying finisher if you can crew it, which is not easy, admittedly, but it does just enough to mess with the opponent's board that casting on turn 5 is you know, not a liability, even if you can't crew right away. So checking planeswalkers and, you know, modest-sized creatures, which is most of the playable creatures in the format, it's very powerful. So I'm a big fan. Like I said before, I'm going to value counter magic very highly in this deck. Tolerant is a card that I like, but I never get to work. Basically, because of, you know, needing to have enough creatures to put some pressure on and actually threaten the life totals, and crew Skyboat sometimes, and just having some planeswalkers lying around, it ends up being pretty hard to have what I think is a critical number of spells for Talrand to be great, which personally I would put the number at above 12 for it to be excellent. And I don't think that we're going to make it. Right now we're getting close. We have 5, 6, but I don't think we're going to make it. We'll see. It might wheel. Whew. All right. This is nonsense. So I don't know what's happening here. Maybe the cards in this pack were incredible, but don't pass Dismember if you have a chance. I mean, let's be real. There are threats. There are counterspells. There are planeswalkers to some extent. You know, there are some cards that you need to take over cards like Dismember, but in the Legacy Cube where there's not power and there aren't signets, a lot of cards are not as good as a 1-mana kill everything. So just take it and don't pass it. Ooh. Just some random red cards coming through. Once again, you know, red might have been open for us, and a solid blue-red card. I like Ral Zarek a lot. This would be a good argument here to take Ral Zarek and make our deck look like a normal Magic deck. But Pact of Negation, like I made the free counterspell argument before, just very strong, nice having access to, nice to close the games with. Love Dryad Greenseeker, it's so cool. In Cube, I don't think it's good in normal limited. It was miserable in M19, but Linvala is a special place in my heart because of Birthing Pod in Standard. Modern, rather, excuse me. Once Upon a Time. Yeah, Mana War's fine. It's not great, but fine. There's the duplicate I talked about earlier. I think it's a little better than Kaiga. Not much better, but a little better. Kind of does the job you want Kaiga to do, and Kaiga just sometimes doesn't actually close. Oh, that's so kind. I don't think Stroke is ever happening in reality. I'm not going to have enough mana to utilize this. This is more of a green card, I think. You don't take a Hostage Taker. I don't have any black mana yet outside of this City of Brass, but it's a reasonable card. It's actually kind of nice little Reanimator package. If I'm playing against a Reanimator deck, now I can do both of them. That one wouldn't work so well, but Necromancy is nice to board in against Reanimator decks. Oh, that is one of the really sad things about playing Mono Blue. You can't actually play opposition, which is one of my favorite ways to play Vintage Cube or Legacy Cube, excuse me. Just taking all the choices away from your opponent and locking them out of the game is not something I like doing normally, but when you're doing it with Tiddlywinks creatures, that brings me great joy. Being said, we have 6 currently, and probably gonna have about 9 or 10 when we're all done, so that's not happening. Whereas Vendilion Clique is just great. Cruise our boat. Has a modest impact on the game one way or the other. Comes down early, threatens. You can hold up a counterspell. It's dope. This pack is a little bit underwhelming. I like Stratus Dancer a lot. Sometimes you just cast it as a flyer and get in and start attacking. I mean, you do need to put some pressure on so that your counter magic's actually good, and you don't just let them have all the time in the world to set up and resolve their one big spell. You want to put them under pressure, so you can close the door. And I mean, it's good in the late game too. You know, if you have all the extra mana lying around, it catches instants and sorceries and is uncounterable. So that's really nice. Careful Study is dope if you are a Reanimator deck. We could here do that, but again, we don't. I mean, by design, I have not taken any fatties, which, I mean, they haven't really been coming around that late for the most part. But that is one area in which, you know, I probably could be doing a better job here. Might as well take a moment to say something about it. I think in normal draft, I do a really good job of drafting for my sideboard, you know, knowing, okay, I'm going to have 25 to 28 playables in the average in most average draft sets. You know, I tend to really aggressively take sideboard cards, sometimes even in other colors, so that sometimes I can add a color to board in a Disenchant or board in something that kills a flyer or whatever, you know, just random cards, random small creatures, big creatures, you know, so that I can shift my deck a little bit. I'm not as good at doing it in cube because I don't have the feel down, and I don't know when I can afford to pass something like, I don't know, Duplicant, if I'm going to end up short on playables. I'm taking Consecrated Sphinx because it's busted. Ancestral Vision is also very good. I would have been happy to put that in my deck too. It will not wheel. Alright, back to reality. Two good cards here. I like both Dismiss and Control Magic a lot. We don't have any Control Magic effects yet, so I'm going to take it. If we had one, like a Treachery or something, I would definitely Sullen Dismiss here. I think it's close, this pick, and I may be wrong, but I'm going to take Control Magic. You'll probably hear me say it if you ever are watching me draft or with me in a draft, but I value the first of a unique effect very highly. You know, having access to, you know, a finisher, you know, a Control Magic card, you know, a Disenchant. You know, the first one I think is the most valuable, and there are diminishing returns from that with a lot of kinds of cards. Yeah, so that's why I'm gonna value that very highly there. Yeah, we could have had a pretty nice Reanimator deck, and if you're so inclined to do that, you know, maybe you can draft a good-looking Reanimator deck and beat the pants off of what my theoretical mono blue deck would have looked like if you made a couple different picks here and there. But I'm pretty happy with how this deck looks. I'm taking this Looter. I think this is just a good card in average decks, as well as being very good in Reanimator decks.
Let me ask you this question.
Jack had to talk to me about Pokemon Go for a minute. We're going to go take a walk after I finish this video. This pack stinks. I don't want any of these cards. There's a chance I want... Ravages will work. Fuck it. I like this card a lot. I was going to say take the black card because maybe there's a time I board in a black package, but I think it's more likely that I want something like Ravages of War in those scenarios, and I still have City of Brass, so I can backdoor into casting that. This one's a little interesting. It's the same scenario. I'm not playing any of these cards, so now it's a land decision, and this one's actually interesting. So, how often do I think I'm going to board in Ravages of War? Maybe against Weirdo Control X. I think it's more likely that I need to board in the Necromancy package, so I'm going to take the Black Land. So one of the other nice things about... Ooh. There's like no way I'm playing this, unless my opponent's playing like Singular Fatties. I think this is a reasonable sideboard card for my deck. I was going to say, one of the nice things about playing Mono Blue is that if Thassa is opened, if Tempest Djinn is opened, and you are actually getting all the blue cards, then you will get it. So that's very nice. If we didn't have Karn, I would take this Battle Ball. I think that card's very good. It is kind of tempted to take this Careful Study. I still don't have anything to discard to it. It's kind of weird. Maybe it's backwards. I'm going to take it. Ooh, actually, there's a chance I want to opposition someone, and then I should take Battle Ball for that reason. That pick could easily be wrong. I don't think we're ever going to try to reanimate or somebody because we're not getting a fatty in the last 5 picks. So, the pick's probably great. I don't know. Battlesphere Opposition. That's kind of interesting now. I'm going to think about it. Spellcaller is a playable magic card. The rest are not. What do they say about having your cake and eating it too? So we are definitely doing that right now. None of these cards matter to us. There's a world in which we want some disenchants, and then we just backdoored into having 2 easy green sources. That's kind of nice. And this card is really weird. I don't know. Not a big fan of the Commander printings and what they do to Eternal formats. So, oops, group separately. Okay, let's take a little look here. So we need just the 4 cantrips and Foff. As far, oh, 3 cantrips. Just want to kind of get a little look at what we've got here. And Jace is kind of put that in the Tamiyo pile. Good mix of counter magic. Okay, definitely never starting Old Man of the Sea. This is a good card to board in against certain opponents, but it's gonna be dead sometimes. You know, I'm pretty happy to Mana War in the dark, but Old Man of the Sea is not happening. This is a questionable Thassa deck, unfortunately. Although if we're oppositioning, then it gets a bit better. And it is very powerful when it flips. I mean, scrying is incidental and nice. Might not start this duplicate. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if I'm gonna play this Dismiss. The 7 drops are weighing on my mind too. Like, this is kind of a package in my mind. Battlesphere Opposition. It's just like, without this, 9 creatures. Like, Battlesphere Opposition, it works really well together, but Opposition doesn't work very well on its own. With this deck, maybe what we find is that against some opponents we want to do this, and if that's the case, then we can board all of them together. It's a nice little package. That might work. We'll see. What do we got here? Let's bring them back together and sort by CMC. Alright. Am I going to play the 17th land? I might need to. This does have a 7 drop in it. Yeah. We have Foff. We've got some cantrips. We did not get a fetch land for Brainstorm. Blue fetch lands are hard to come by. We just won't play Brainstorm. Card's kind of a turd as is. It would be nice. I mean, it's nice to have a little digging power, but I don't really have a way to make it good. I think we want Karn. I like Karn. I like having access to a little bit of that kind of action. A little fatty. Something to draw to, you know. When you're factor fictioning, it's nice to have some whammies, like Karn. But actually just slam the door. Because it's like, what, are they going to give you 4-1? And sometimes you can win with 4-1. I'm a little grumpy. I didn't get Dismiss. It's nice to have that as well. But that's okay. I mean, we have a good mix of counter magic. I like this 4 slot especially. I think this deck's going to be very good. I would be surprised if we didn't 3-0. I mean, it definitely can happen, but I expected to 3-0. Yeah, I think this plus 16 islands in an Ancient Tomb is probably fine. It's like this Brainstorm does not make it that much better, does it? I wouldn't mind casting this on like turn 10, you know, with a small hand, just to see what's down there. Give me a late burst into action if I'm holding some lands. It's not bad with Thassa. It's something. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it out. Best part about playing mono is Magic Online usually just knows how many lands to give you. That's nice. 17 lander. I don't usually play 17 lands, but we ended up a little bit thin on the card drawing side. In Looter, Serum Visions, Thoth, Jace. It's not so thin, but we do need 3 lands basically in all of our openers, so I'm pretty fine with playing the 17 in this case. Yeah, I think we'll 3-0 with this deck. I'm pretty happy with it.